Good evening and welcome to the September 17th, 2013 San Bruno Planning Commission meeting. Roll call, please.
Chair Biasotti.
Here.
Vice Chair Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Marshall.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Chase.
Here.
Commissioner Samut.
Here.
Commissioner Mishra.
Here.
Thank you.
Would Commissioner Mishra lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. Item 1, approval of the minutes for August 20th, 2013.
I move we approve the minute.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
One here.
One abstention. Thank you. Two abstentions. Communications.
There are no additional staff communications this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3 is public comments. This is the opportunity for folks to speak on items that are not on the agenda this evening. We will limit your time to 3 minutes. So if you give us your name and tell us which
Good
part.
evening, Commissioners. My name is Naweed Amin. I'm here, a resident of San Bruno. And today I want to talk about 2 points. And part of the second point will be a handout, a single page that hopefully the Commissioners will take a look and read. It's from it's the League of California Cities. They did a Planning Commissioners education event, and they do that every year. And so it's a one-session handout, and I'll talk about that during the second topic. Now, the first point, today I just want to echo the sentiment and state that I agree with Vice Chair Peterson's comments at the previous Planning Commission's meeting about the problem with the lack of clarity and vagueness, the understanding by the public of the language that is simply copied over directly from the municipal code with respect to items such as finding of facts and so forth that applicants and the general public sees before them. I agree with Vice Chair Peterson that the language is vague and misleading at times. And I don't want you to underestimate your power as a collective group of planning commissioners. And I urge this collective group of commissioners through subcommittees or through study sessions, come up with a plan to use clear and easy to understand language with respect to applicants and the general public and provide guidance and direction to your respective city staff here. Now, I'm not asking you to reinvent the wheel. I'm not asking you to necessarily duplicate efforts, but the idea is to provide an understanding to municipal code wherever staff cites it and it presents itself before the public and before the applicant. And so I'm certainly not a planning commission member, or rather a planning commissioner, so I don't have the legal authority to make a motion to add this as a discussion item for a future meeting, but you all respectively do as planning commissioners, and I certainly encourage you to at any appropriate time during this meeting, you can certainly make a motion to add this as a discussion item for a future agenda. Hopefully there will be a second from another planning commissioner and enough votes to carry the motion through as a discussion item for a future meeting. Now the second item, there's 10 copies here, and I'll pass it out to your respective staff, and there's enough for 7 of you and then 3 of the staff that's present here. Thank you. So just to briefly go over that, it's a single page document. It's a handout that was given to, the title of it is Serving Your City. This handout was given to participants who participated in the Planning Commissioners Academy, which is held through various events by the League of California Cities throughout the year, annually as well. And this handout just sort of outlines a lot of the topics of how to be an effective planning commissioner, and hopefully it'll encourage you to seek knowledge and ask questions, because as a member of the public, even though I'm not here in person at every meeting, I do watch the videos, and I do encourage, even if your opinion is in the minority, I do encourage you to participate and provide feedback. And there are people who agree with you, certainly not all the time, but with the general idea. And thank you very much. Please do excuse me.
Okay. All right. Item number 4, announcement of conflicts of interest. Anyone with a conflict this evening? Nope, okay. Then we'll move on to public hearings. The first is item 5A, 29 Pacific Avenue. This is a request for a use permit to allow an addition which increases the gross floor area ratio of an existing home by greater than 50% per sections 12-230B1 of the San Bruno Municipal Code. Matt, please.
Thank you and good evening. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to expand the existing single-family dwelling located at 29 Pacific Avenue. The site is located on the south side of Pacific Avenue. It's currently developed with a one-story single-family dwelling. There's a total of 800 square feet of living area with a one-car garage. The applicant is proposing a one-story addition to the rear of the existing home. The addition would amount to 618 square feet and will contain one new bedroom, one new bathroom, and a new kitchen. An L-shaped deck is also proposed. The addition will result in 1,418 square feet of living area and a one-car garage. The Architectural Review Committee did review this project and forwarded it on to the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation. As stated, the project requires a use permit as the addition results in a 50% expansion. I would like to point out that the proposal meets all other development standards of the zoning district. It meets the FAR, lot coverage setback, height requirements, and parking requirements. Staff does find that the proposal is consistent with the residential design guidelines. The addition is located to the rear of the existing single-family home. It uses a pretty much a simple building form, which is common throughout the neighborhood. The addition will match the existing wood shingle finish and will incorporate matching wood window trim. Overall, staff supports the proposed design. Staff sent a courtesy notice and the required 300-foot legal notice. We did receive written comments from a resident at the Architectural Review Committee meeting. Those comments are included as Exhibit E within your staff report, which I'll highlight tonight. The very first comment from that concerned citizen was regarding the intended use of the property. There was questions whether this would be a multi-family structure or be used as a business. This property will function as a single-family dwelling, and I'd like to point out our standard condition of approval that we include, which is condition of approval number 6, which states that the resident shall be used only as a single-family residential dwelling unit. No portion of the residence shall be rented out as a secondary residential dwelling unit. Any attempt to construct an illegal dwelling unit will result in code enforcement action by the city. The resident also suggested that a street tree be installed. I would like to point out that we do include our standard condition of approval here, and that's condition number 17 within your staff report. Additionally, there was a question regarding construction hours, and this is also covered with one of our standard conditions of approval. That's condition of approval number 4. And lastly, the resident was concerned whether or not the property owner was going to install solar panels, as they have indicated that they will provide conduits for future panels. Additionally, there was a question whether the applicant had identified any specific space for the equipment associated with those solar panels. The applicant has indicated that they plan to do so in the future, not at this time. This does require a building permit, and the location of the associated equipment would be reviewed at the time of building permit submittal. Overall, staff is supportive of the proposal. We would recommend that the Planning Commission approve this use permit request, subject to findings of fact 1 through 7, and conditions of approval 1 through 26. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for staff?
Through the chair.
Start on the end. Perry?
You pointed out to me that the lot coverage is listed as 11% on page 3, but it's actually 44, is it?
Correct. Yeah, in that very first chart, if you turn to page 3 within your staff report, zoning requirements. So based on a 5,000 square foot lot, the lot coverage threshold would be 44%, which is 2,200 square feet. So that's an oversight within the staff report.
Thank you. And when you were addressing Exhibit E, comments from the general public, is that what this last page is?
Correct. That was provided by
You said San Bruno resident made the comments?
Correct.
How did you figure that out? I don't see the name or the address or anything.
It was not included within the written comments provided to staff. The person did represent themselves as a San Bruno resident, though, when dropping off these comments at the Architectural Review
Oh,
Committee
okay.
meeting.
I thought I missed it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mary, did you have a comment? Suj?
To the chair. Matt, if I can direct your attention to page 7, the conditions of approval number 10. The FAA notification and approval is required prior to the issuance of the building permit. Could you go over the process and what timelines can be anticipated?
For this type of application, well, I guess it's important to start at the beginning. The San Francisco Airport recently adopted a new comprehensive land use plan. Within this document, there's language regarding FAA review, notification, and review. If you meet specific criteria, which the majority of properties in San Bruno do, there is this notification process. We have checked in with other cities, and for a single-family home addition of this sort, the FAA review process typically takes anywhere between 30 and 45 days, and this would be required prior to building permit issuance.
And is a planning commission approval required for that?
No, planning commission approval is not required.
Thanks.
I was just going to ask what Exhibit E was, but I think that was it. I didn't know if it was an information letter or a letter from the public.
Joe?
No, I don't have any questions for.
Oh, okay, good. All right, thank you, Matt. Is the applicant here? Yes, would you step to the podium, give us your name, and tell us a little about your project? Please.
Through the chair.
Yes, Joe.
Can I ask that the microphones get increased a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing what's going on.
I thought that was me.
I thought that was
I was getting nervous.
Please, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Juan Roman. I'm married to Lorena Segura, the owner of 29 Pacific. We're here to request the Planning Commission to grant us the permit to be able to make this addition, so me and my family can live comfortably. Right now, we sit in the living room and our elbows are in the kitchen, so we'd like to have a comfortable home. So that's the reason why we are requesting permission to make the addition to our home.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, anyone in the public want to comment on this one? No? Gone. Okay. We'll bring it back to the commission for comment, motion.
Through the chair,
Commissioner Peterson.
I move the Planning Commission approve use permit 13-13 based on findings of fact 1 through 7 and conditions of approval 1 through 26.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is approved. There's a 10-day appeal period. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay, item B, 3021 Crestmore Drive. It's a request for a use permit to allow an addition that creates a second story with a transparent window adjacent to the abutting property that has a side yard greater than 10 feet to exceed 2,800 square feet of living area while only providing 2 covered parking spaces where 3 are required per sections 12240B1, 12280A3, respectively of the San Bruno Municipal Code.
Thank you. As stated, the applicant has applied for a use permit to expand the existing single-family dwelling located at 3021 Crestmore Drive. The site is located on the east side of Crestmore Drive and is currently developed with a 1-story single-family dwelling. The current home has 1,823 square feet of living area with a 517 square foot 2-car garage. The applicant is proposing a 1,133 square foot second-story addition. The addition will include 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a family room, and a utility room. If approved and constructed, this would be a 3,473 square foot home consisting of 2,956 square feet of living area and a 517 square foot 2-car garage. The Architectural Review Committee did review this project at the August 15th Architectural Review Committee meeting. They did forward this project on to the Planning Commission with 5 specific recommendations. Those recommendations were to incorporate a garage door with windows, incorporate a trellis feature or some sort of architectural band along the left side elevation to help break up the first and second-story wall within the same vertical plane. Ensure the plans are drawn to scale. Ensure that the site plan accurately reflects the location of the second-story addition. And lastly, to ensure that the detached structure is located at least 1 foot from the side property line. The applicant has updated the plans accordingly, and we have the revised plans before us tonight. As previously stated, a use permit is required as the second-story addition contains a transparent window adjacent to an abutting property that has a side yard greater than 10 feet. As you know, in San Bruno, the side setbacks are typically in the 3 to 5 foot range. Therefore, we don't see this entitlement request all that often. The intent of this entitlement is to preserve the privacy of the adjacent property owner because they're more likely to use that outdoor side yard space as their rear yard outdoor space. Staff does not anticipate any negative impacts associated with privacy. There's only one small window located along that right side elevation, and it's within the master bedroom. The second story is also set back from the first story below. As a result, the closest point of that second story expansion is located 17 feet from the shared property line. A use permit is also required as the addition is exceeding 2,800 square feet of living area, which technically requires a third covered parking space. However, there is a use permit process in place, which the applicant has applied for. There is a large 2-car garage. It's 517 square feet. Additionally, there are 2 spaces in the driveway. Therefore, a total of 4 cars would be able to park on site. And I would like to point out that the distance between the face of the garage and the back edge of the sidewalk is approximately 21 feet. Therefore, 2 cars will be able to fully fit on that driveway and will not block the public right-of-way. Staff sent a courtesy notice and the required legal notice to all property owners within 300 feet of the site. Staff received 1 comment from an adjacent property owner who expressed some concern with the second-story addition. This neighbor was specifically concerned that the addition would block sunlight, and she had privacy concerns. Staff explained that the second-story addition was located 17 feet from the shared property line and was set in 3 feet from that first story below. Additionally, the home will be less than the overall 28-foot height limit. Staff also received written comments from a resident at the August 15th Architectural Review Committee meeting. Those comments are attached as Exhibit E within your staff report, which I'll highlight. The very first question was regarding the public utility easement on site. The specific questions were how the construction would affect the public utility easement, and upon completion, would the public utility easement be affected in a negative fashion. I would like to point out that there is a varying public utility easement in this rear yard area. It's about 14 feet to 17 feet deep. Staff will inform the contractor not to store any heavy equipment in that public utility easement area, and we would not anticipate there being any negative impacts associated with the public utility easement. Additionally, the applicant or the concerned property owner also expressed concerns regarding possible privacy impacts and requested that the applicant and staff reach out to the property owner once again. We have verbally talked with the adjacent property owner, and for the above or for the previously mentioned reasons, we are supporting the project. The second story again is set in 17 feet from that shared property line and is set 3 feet back from that first story below and is meeting the overall height limit, or it's actually less than the overall height limit. Lastly, the resident expressed concern with the project's location as it is in close proximity to John Muir Elementary School. Specifically, the resident advised that construction vehicles and construction hours not unnecessarily hinder pedestrian or vehicular traffic, and expressed some concern regarding the overall construction hours. We have included our standard condition of approval, which is condition of approval number 4 regarding construction hours. Additionally, staff will encourage the contractor to be extra careful when arriving and leaving the subject site during our pre-construction meeting, just due to its close proximity to this elementary school. Overall, staff supports the project, and we do recommend that the Planning Commission approve the use permit request based on findings of fact 1 through 7 and conditions of approval 1 through 26. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for staff? Okay, thank you, Matt. Is the applicant here? Would you like to step to the podium, give us your name, and talk about your project, please?
Hi, my name is Besma Tota. I'm the owner of 3021 Crestmore Drive, and my husband George, right over there. And going to be here 3 years since we bought the house, and looking forward to expanding so each one of the kids can have their own room and stop fighting all day, all night, and get this project done and move on, please. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is George Day. I'm the designer of the building. And my job was to make a compromise between the planning and the owner, you know. And at the end, we make a compromise and listen whatever they want to do, and we did it, you know. So basically, whatever the planning asked, we did that. So any question I can answer.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Through the chair.
Commissioner Mitchell.
I would like the applicant to, I guess, let me know if, since you're so close to the school, would you be opposed to putting a construction fence during the duration of the construction period to
Where
keep
would-
the kids out?
The construction fence would be where? It's
Chain link
nothing on the
fence.
street.
Chain link fence separating the sidewalk from the property?
I don't think we
Yeah, but
can
you-
affect anything with the school.
Do kids walk
Me
in
and my
front?
daughter are the only ones that walk to school on the block.
If you want to speak, step to the podium, please. Sorry.
That's enough.
When you do under the construction, we're not gonna put anything in the street, dumpster, anything, all wood, everything. I have inside the house. I have like a motor home, you can park in the side the house. Everything can be inside. It's nothing in the street.
Do kids
No.
walk in front of this property?
No, the street side across the street, school.
I would say that if, I would like to put a condition of approval if kids use this space to cross in front of the property, that there be a construction fence, and I'd leave it to the discretion of the community development director.
The location of the school is down the hill to the right on, it's not, there's nothing, there's no pickup, there's no drop-off zone or anything where we're at. It's the next block over that has the green and the crosswalk for all the pickup and drop-off.
I haven't been on site and I don't know what the conditions look like, but I just wanted to put that out there. And it's a condition, it's a condition of approval that will need final approval or waiver from the community development director, and so I'd like to put it in his hands. If that's okay.
We can do that. We would have a pre-construction meeting with our building inspector and the contractor and evaluate the site and determine if that kind of fencing would be necessary in this case.
Sure.
Typically, it would not, but if it is necessary in this case, we would ask the contractor, the homeowner, to install it.
Okay. So do you not recommend putting it as a condition of approval and leave it open to the pre-construction meeting?
At the pre-construction meeting and going on site, we would evaluate if there's a need. Again, typically we don't find that there's a need in a condition like this, in a situation like this, for that type of fence, so it would be unusual. So what I'm indicating to the commission is that I wouldn't expect to need to have that kind of fencing in this case. However, if we see a special circumstance and a safety need, we would ask the contractor to install it.
Through the chair.
Commissioner Chase.
You know, I can't ever recall having this condition put on an addition in somebody's house because of a close proximity to a school or whatever. And not to be, blunt, but, well, I won't be. But it's, to me, it's definitely, unnecessary and absurd, in my opinion.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
I certainly support the thought that it's in our community director's hands. I think that at any time that we may not see something, that you certainly would ask the appropriate questions. I would want to be sure that we don't set a precedent on a situation that would not be something for every single issue that comes up on something like this, but I think that Commissioner Mishra has indicated that he puts it in your hands, and I think that you can make that decision.
That's fine.
Did you have something else to add, Commissioner Mishra?
No.
Okay. Anyone else?
Through the chair,
Commissioner Peterson.
I move the commission approve use permit.
Let me do public comment first.
Oh, excuse me.
It's okay. Okay, was there anything else you wanted to add to your comments?
No?
Okay, thank you. Is there someone from the public who would like to speak on this one? No? Okay, go ahead and sit down. Okay, go ahead, Perry.
The public comment period.
Public comment is closed.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you'd like to add something.
I move the commission approve use permit 13-11 based on findings of fact 1 through 7 and conditions of approval 1 through 26.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. The project's approved, and there's a 10-day appeal period. Congratulations. Okay. The next item is 1900 Skyline. Welcome. (1900 Skyline Boulevard). It's a request for a conditional use permit to construct a wireless telecommunications facility within a residential zoning district and to exceed the height limits for the district in which it is located up to 50 feet per sections 12-200 and 12-80-160 of the San Bruno zoning ordinance. Laura?
Thank you and good evening. The application is for a wireless facility at the PG&E substation, which is located on Skyline Boulevard, just south of Sneath Lane, and that's south and adjacent to the Church of the Highlands. The project includes a monopine design, which it resembles a pine tree. There are photo simulations of the proposed monopine included in your staff report. The project also includes 7 prefabricated equipment cabinets. Those are proposed to be 5 feet, 6 inches tall, and there are some minor associated equipment. All of this would be located within a leasable area that would be surrounded by an 8-foot chain link fence that would have colored slats that would be selected to blend into the area. So sort of a green or brown, something that would blend into that environment up there. You're probably familiar with the substation location. The majority of the site is gravel. It's minimally developed just for the substation. And then there's some landscaping that buffers the site from Skyline Boulevard. Access to the site is through an easement off of Skyline. And so that's where vehicles currently access the substation location. So we would not expect any impact on residential properties to the side of the site. We would not expect that impact either for installation or for the monthly maintenance that would take place after the installation was complete. As the Planning Commission is aware, the applicant is required to submit a radio frequency report analyzing the emissions from the proposed facility, both on a cumulative basis, so all of the wireless facilities that are located there, as well as this particular facility. So this particular facility is calculated at 9.9, so about 10% of the public exposure limit. And then the cumulative analysis, so the sites that are all there added together, would be 31% of the public exposure limit at the ground level. Okay, so this is 50 feet in the air, is with the pole is the maximum height of the monopine, and then the antennas are about 5 feet down from that. So down at the ground level, about 45 feet below, it would be 31% of the public exposure limit. So well below the maximum threshold, and the project would not require any additional mitigation measures in order to meet the federal FCC requirements. The project was reviewed at the June 13th Architectural Review Committee meeting. At that time, the committee supported the monopine design to meet the stealth design requirement and forwarded the project with some recommendations. The applicant has addressed those comments, and so those things are integrated into the plans that are before you tonight. The first one is to ensure that the monopine would meet the height limit, and so they did adjust the height of the tree, and so there would be sort of those kind of branches at the top of the tree that we've discussed before, so it would not be just the antennas at the very top of the tree. So there would be some faux branches at the top, and then the antennas would start a few feet down and the total height of the entire structure would not exceed 50 feet. The other minor recommendation was to include the colored slats for the fence around the leasable area, and as I mentioned, that has been implemented. So in regards to public comments, staff sent a courtesy notice in May of 2013 and a legal notice on September 6th. We received one email in opposition to the project. That email has been distributed tonight on paper to the Planning Commission and is available here for members of the public. Staff did communicate back and forth with this resident, and to summarize some of her concerns, they were related to potential health and safety impacts and potential interference with PG&E communications and equipment. And as I mentioned, the RF emissions for a cumulative basis are expected to be 31% of the exposure limit. So as we know, under the FCC regulations, that is well below the threshold and considered safe by those FCC regulations. And so we do not anticipate any additional concerns related to that. Also, we've learned over the many years of wireless communications locating at PG&E facilities and on PG&E equipment throughout the community. PG&E has a very strict guidelines to ensure that wireless facilities don't interfere with their operations. And so the applicant has gone through those appropriate procedures and ensured with PG&E that there are not any issues. And as I understand it, PG&E has also reviewed the project and the conditions of approval for tonight. Staff also received one phone call in support of the project. So staff would recommend approval of the project subject to findings 1 through 7 and subject to conditions of approval 1 through 15. The conditions that staff has placed on the project this evening are the standard conditions of approval for wireless facilities. It does include the condition that came up some years back in regards to maintenance of these facilities. We do expect that the facility be maintained in like-new condition to the satisfaction of the Community Development Director, and as I understand that the applicant might be able to provide additional detail for you on that topic tonight, because it has been one that has been an issue in the community some years back, but not so much recently. So I'm sure she can speak to that if you would like to hear any additional detail. So we would recommend approval of the project, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Through the chair.
Commissioner.
On the letter that we received by this particular person that lives in San Francisco, I'm trying to understand typically as to the thinking behind it, as to just trying to understand living in San Francisco. I mean, is it something that they drive by, or I'm not quite sure. I think there's some health issues, but there's also something related to some financial gain to PG&E. So I'm wondering, interested to know as to what motivated the thinking behind the letter. There's just more than just really, I think, health things on here. And then the other thing I wanted just to ask, I live up there and I drive by that at least twice a day, if not more. And the location where it is, you have to drive up this little driveway to be able to get to the back, and it's not truly a public road at all. And is it really visible? Is it truly that visible from skyline and from other areas? And when I receive a complaint from someone, I really feel it's important to address those issues and take a look at all the areas. But I also think it's important to look at what's the thinking behind all, weigh out all the components and to say, okay, how, what warrants the decision on my decision, part to accept a project or deny a project. And in this case, I'm kind of interested because someone from San Francisco coming to make this issue. We certainly know from the research we've done, not only as commissioners, but mostly through our staff relying on the research about the health issues. And is there any new development on health issues that have come up? I mean, you comment to some of that, but is there anything new that we should be aware of? And those are my comments, questions.
Through the chair. My understanding of this comment is that it is from a San Bruno resident, and this is her professional address. Okay. So this is from her professional email address. So I believe that she is a resident of the community. There is sort of a concern in the letter in regards to PG&E getting a financial gain from this project. Our understanding is that it is standard for telecommunications facilities to pay a lease fee to have these kinds of facilities. PG&E has to have a number of them on many of their different facilities pretty much throughout this area. when they were considering locations, there is some information in your staff report in regards to their site analysis, looking for appropriate locations for this. Typically what happens is the applicant will identify a gap in coverage. It's something we've talked about in the past, but we haven't had on the agenda for some time. So then they are required as part of their analysis to consider different options to meet that gap in coverage. So they did consider some different options that included several different antennas within the public right-of-way, which oftentimes has a greater visual impact. They considered the Skycrest location to the south, and then some locations that potentially could have more impact on the residential uses. And so those considerations go into their application when they apply to us. And we would review that site analysis, but we would not normally concern ourselves with the financial gain or loss of the person that they eventually lease with. So that's the kind of analysis that staff would normally do. In regards to its visibility from skyline, the equipment at the ground we would not expect to be visible. It's quite small equipment, 5 feet 6 inches, cabinets, 8-foot tall fence. There is a lot of planted material at that location. The monopine itself, of course, is visible, and that's what's shown in your photo simulations that are included in your packet. And so it's from a couple of different angles, so we can anticipate what appearance that's going to have. So that would be staff's analysis of the visibility of the site. In regards to safety concerns, staff is not aware of any change to the FCC regulations that make it quite clear to us that as long as they meet those federal guidelines, that projects should not be disapproved because of health concerns. And so the applicants these days are very thorough in the way that they present their projects and any potential mitigation measures in order to ensure safety. At this particular site in particular, there is not public access. You can't get close to it, and the nearest house is behind on Monterey or some distance away or all the way across Skyline. And so even getting to the closest possible point with a 30% of the public exposure limit emissions would be, not possible for a member of the public because it is a secure site. So we're not aware of any particular concerns in regards to safety for this site, nor are we aware of any changes to the federal law.
Thank you for answering that.
Through the chair, just kind of a general question on these towers. How about if the company goes out of business or go bankrupt, who's responsible for the removal of the equipment? Would it be the property owner, or is there a bond put up there? Is there a condition for that?
We have updated our conditions in recent years to try to address this fact, and so we have some language in condition number 9. If the facility is abandoned or non-operational, it shall be removed at the full cost of the applicant within 60 days. So that's if the applicant is still, present. There's been changes in cell phone companies over the years, and so sometimes this can be a challenge to implement. And so what we've added is condition number 13. And so we require additional contact persons for the facility at the time of building permit issuance, and we try to reflect that in the record. This has made it easier for us to implement conditions of approval and see projects through over recent years. And so what happens is if the facility operator is non-responsive to city communications, then the property owner has to then take responsibility. So this is a relatively new condition.
I read number 9, and it mentions the applicant. Can we add and/or owner? Because if on this one here, I think Verizon's going to go out of business. But it should be kind of blanket that the applicant and/or owner should be responsible for the removal. Well, the owner of the property. Because it's the applicant's always, like on this one here, the applicant is PG or Verizon. So if they go out of business, the condition just says the applicant's responsible. If there is no Verizon, there's no applicant. But if they put and/or owner, then PG&E would be responsible.
Yes, I think that would be a good addition to condition number 9.
Okay. Anyone else?
Through the chair. Just one other comment on the tree. If that tree, and you might have addressed this already, Laura, if that tree starts to get that blue color, that sort of hazy, who maintains that piece of it? Because it does happen, and maybe there's new materials and things would not happen. And maybe it's a question for the applicant, but and I'm happy to address it with the applicant. But I guess it's better than another metal tower looking at it, because there's plenty of metal towers as you drive by and see those. However, I think that a blue hazy tree becomes sometimes more of an obstacle than another metal thing. I'll reserve my comments actually for the applicant. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. Would the applicant like to go to the podium, give us your name, and tell us about your project?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners, staff, and members of the public. My name is Lily Lim, and I'm with Core Development Services, and we represent Verizon Wireless for this project located at 1900 Skyline Boulevard. Verizon Wireless is proposing to install a 50-foot faux monopine on an existing PG&E substation. Verizon's first proposal was to install a 55-foot faux monopine. However, during the Architectural Review Committee meeting, the committee had concerns with the height of the site and suggested that we lower it to 50 feet to meet the city's height limit. Further, the committee also wanted slats added to the chain link fence to help screen the equipment. Initially, we just had a chain link fence, so the committee wanted to see wooden slats. Verizon has addressed both concerns that the committee had and is now presenting you with a 50-foot faux monopine as well as a wooden slatted chain link fence. Also, during the committee meeting, there was also concerns about the maintenance and the color and who would maintain the site. And typically, once they go out, technicians go out there every 4 to 6 weeks, and they take care of the equipment and make sure that everything's still looking good. And so I was told that once maintenance is needed on tree branches, sometimes, if the tree branches, if leaves fall or things like that, they'll go and replace the branch. How the tree is constructed is it's a pole, and they have branches that screw into, I guess, essentially the metal base, the entire base. And so it's easy for them to just pull out a branch and then replace it with something that looks better. The other thing is, initially we submitted this design, we submitted the tree design as well as a metal pole. My initial thoughts were that because it's a PG&E substation, the metal pole would blend in better, but after we got photo sims done, we realized that the tree actually fit in better, and so we changed our design to move forward with the tree due to the landscaping that's between the site and Highway 35. The other thing is the exposure limit for the EMF reports. That's based on a worst case scenario. If everyone, the entire capacity is at its full max, that's what the exposure limit would be. And I mean, someone driving by Highway 35 wouldn't be sitting there for a good 8 hours. So hopefully Skyline would never be that bad in traffic. But basically the exposure limit is based off of the worst case scenario. If every person is calling and every person is using their data for many, many hours at a time. Let me know if you have other questions that I can answer.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Through the chair,
Commissioner Johnson.
I think you basically addressed the issue on the tree by indicating how you screw in the branches, and also I'm satisfied with your answer.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there someone from the public who'd like to comment? No? Okay. So we'll bring it back to the commission for conversation, motion, vote.
Through the chair,
Commissioner.
if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion that we approve use permit 12-015 based on, timeout. We get the right verbiage. Based on findings of fact 1 through 7 and conditions of approval 1 through 15. Sorry about that.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion is approved, and I believe there's a 10-day appeal period on that as well. Congratulations. Item 6, city staff discussion.
We have a couple of follow-up items for you based on some things, some issues that we were tracking and some questions that have come up in some past meetings. So first, I wanted to give you an update on the Pacific Bay Vista's stormwater treatment measures. So as a reminder, larger development projects these days are required to contain stormwater on site and treat them typically through bioretention treatment measures. So those are landscape-based treatment measures where the water goes through, some of it infiltrates, and then it goes typically out to an underdrain and then connects into the system. So in Pacific Bay Vistas, as they've been doing the renovation, they have been implementing stormwater treatment measures consistent with today's requirements. Those requirements come from the Regional Water Quality Control Board as implementation of the Clean Water Act. And so in this case, there are a number of different stormwater treatment measures located throughout the site. There's a couple of different retention areas and then some what people usually call flow-through planters and things like that where the water goes through and cleans up a little bit before it goes into the system. So as I've mentioned before, the city has contracted with an outside engineering firm that has specialized knowledge in this field of stormwater treatment. Our engineering staff leads this effort to implement the municipal regional permit and the stormwater treatment requirements. And so it's actually our development review engineer that works on these issues directly in collaboration with planning staff. So in this case, we've contracted with CSG engineers, and you've heard of them before. They also do plan check services for us, but they have a separate division of staff that is very knowledgeable on stormwater treatment. So they've been doing our plan reviews for us as well as helping staff with inspections. So in this particular case, CSG engineers as well as our own city staff have been out to the field 2 different times. The first time we did find the stormwater treatment measures to be non-compliant and provided them a correction list. These inspections are required by the stormwater permit, by the regional permit. And then most recently, staff and CSG staff were out again on August 2nd and still found some issues that were non-compliant. And so they are still working on those, bringing those into compliance. It is a very strict engineered system, even though it looks like landscaping when it's finished. And so they're required to meet all of those specifications for installation and required to make sure that it meets all of those approved plans. And so the current status is that what you see there today is partially compliant, but they still have some corrections, and they will be required to correct them before the site is closed out.
And I'd like to continue with Pacific Bay Vistas. As you may have seen in the paper or heard, Pacific Bay Vistas had a grand opening this past week, and there was a ribbon cutting, and there are approximately 35 units that are now leased out. So the project is, as you know, 308 units total. They've released 3 buildings. They're leasing out those buildings, and there seems to be quite an interest in that property. So things are moving along there. Also, we had talked not too long ago about the remediation site on El Camino Real. And you may have noticed that's at about 160, 170 El Camino Real. And you may have noticed that a lot of the piping is now removed. And so they are cleaning that site up. It is slow, but at least at this point, the piping, the above-ground piping, is pretty much removed from that site. In addition, Vice Chair Peterson came by and we talked a little bit about this matter of the findings. And this issue came up a little bit more tonight from one of the public members about trying to make our findings a little bit more clear. And I appreciated sitting down with our commissioner and looking at the findings and looking at the specific municipal code sections from which they were drawn. And as a result, I think we're going to fine-tune our wording somewhat to make sure that the wording is consistent, and also list the municipal code sections in your staff reports so that as people review those findings, they can see specifically where those findings came from. They can look up in the municipal code. So Vice Chair Peterson was able to provide that information, and we'll be incorporating that into our staff reports. So I would expect at your next meeting in October that as we have required findings, We'll fine-tune, make consistent the language, and also reference the specific code sections. So we'll be doing that. So I think that'll be an improvement. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Lastly, there was the issue of White Way that came up recently, and I just want to refresh everybody's memories. At the November Planning Commission meeting, November 2012 Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission approved a use permit request for a used car dealership at 675 El Camino Real. The site is surrounded by Keynes Avenue to the north, Angus Avenue to the south, and White Way to the east. As you know, White Way is a one-way street currently running in the southern direction between Keynes Avenue and Angus Avenue. At that November Planning Commission meeting, Commissioner Marshall requested that staff look into the possibility of changing the direction of White Way to run in the northern direction between Angus and Keynes Avenue. We did check in with the Public Services staff member, who's the staff contact for the TSPC, which stands for Transportation Safety and Parking Committee. The Public Services staff representative stated that TSPC review and City Council approval would be required to change the direction of White Way. A traffic study would be required to fully analyze and evaluate the need to change the traffic flow direction. Additionally, the TSPC staff person stated it would be important to get the support of the businesses located on Keynes Avenue, as they do have a private parking lot near the entry point at White Way. Analysis was temporarily put on hold as the building located at the exit point of White Way, which is 601 El Camino Real, was vacant for many months. However, recently a new furniture retail store has occupied the site. As such, the Public Services staff will analyze the request in the near future to determine if it warrants TSPC review. Thank you.
That concludes our updates for you. And the next item on the agenda has to do with the Commission selecting your Architecture Review Committee members for the October Architecture Review Committee members. So we'd ask you to select 3 of your members to go forward in October. So Commissioner Samut, Commissioner Johnson, one more, Commissioner Chase.
Oh, excuse me, Commissioner Marshall, I think had his hand up before I did.
I'm sorry. Commissioner Marshall?
If you want to. I'll be an alternate, but if, you know.
So it looks like we have Commissioner Samut, Commissioner Marshall, and Commissioner Johnson, correct?
Let me know.
Great, thank you.
Okay. And that brings us to Planning Commission discussions. Anyone have anything to bring up?
To the chair.
I have a question for staff on the driving up and down El Camino lately. I think that our jurisdiction on the taco trucks or the catering trucks, I know I brought it up before, on El Camino is not our jurisdiction, but now I see them in parking lots of existing businesses. And I know if a restaurant wants to open up where a non-restaurant is, they have to go for parking exceptions and a lot of different things. And I haven't seen anything come to us for food trucks for approvals. And I was just wondering if that is our jurisdiction.
It is an area of jurisdiction, and what I'll need to do is to look into that. I haven't been here that long, so I want to look into that to get a sense of what the past practice is. I do see them on El Camino Real, and occasionally I do see them on properties, commercial properties. So let me research that to get a sense of past history and practice in terms of regulation. Thank you.
Anyone else?
To the chair, I just wanted to thank the planning staff for bringing that, making this a actual item for follow-up and giving us the feedback. I know I've been waiting to hear on White Way for a while. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right. With that, we are done.